2NURFM 103.7. As always, every second Wednesday, we take a look at things happening in the world of education, and we do that with the University of Newcastle's very own Professor John Fischetti. John, thank you so much, as always, for your time. Today, we're going to go to that period all the way back before the classroom, looking at that very first 1,000 days of our lives. Now, I can't remember a hell of a lot from that period, but why are we suggesting that may be super important today?
Yeah, well, good morning, Mark. And the first 1,000 days of life are probably the most critical for all of us in shaping who we are and what we become. It's not impossible to adjust from that because, as you mentioned, we're not really in control of that, but they shape a lifetime of greatness or one where there's a lot of need. In the sector, early childhood, you know there's sort of a debate in government about whether early childhood educators are basically nannies, babysitters, or they're full-fledged teachers. And I'm here to say they're learning scientists, and probably on the spectrum, the most important of the lot, all the way through to college and uni professors, because of what they do in those first 1,000 days, particularly when mom's got to go back to work and hands over that beautiful, precious baby to a carer during that time.
And you're right, John, that is I guess it is the problem, isn't it? Because it is so important. It's that early stage. It's the first experience with the school life, I guess. But yet, in many respects, we kind of treat that role, or it's thought of as glorified babysitting, which it is not, but we think it is.
Well, and we pay at a lower level, and it doesn't make sense because when we're born, Mark, we have 100 billion neurons. Those impulses that are the sharing of the brain across the various sectors that perform the functions of our human body. 100 billion every day in the first 3 years. A baby grows 15,000 new neurons. And the synapses, which are the electrical connections firing between them, that connect that spark of growth that makes a baby turn from basically seemingly just there to their full-fledged personality that by 3 is very evident, as you know. This is a remarkable time where it can be shaped really positively with love and care and some structure, or it can leave a child where they're going to have a life that's going to have huge deficits that can be overcome, but a lot of hard work.
So what do we actually do to make that sector, I guess, all that it can be? And are there some deficiencies that should be looked at in that sector?
I think what we're beginning to learn in the neuroscience of how kids learn is how crucial love, how crucial formal structured learning is, not just setting a kid down and leaving them while you go do your business. There's concepts such as serve and return, a pretty simple concept out of tennis, right? I serve, you return, or vice versa. But most of what we do in those early years is we're feeding messages to those 100 billion plus neurons, and they're absorbing those to then return that as a child continues to grow. So that first smile is mostly a reaction to the fact that babies, which are virtually all 100% cute. There was an episode of Seinfeld where it might have been a little different.
Nearly all? Come on. I'm not so sure about that.
But those responses are the baby taking that and giving it back. And as they start to oogle and google and say ah and da, they start to take in the language. They start to take in the habits, the linguistic characteristics, as well as the dispositional characteristics of all of those around them. So if we think who spends time with our babies, they're shaping the personalities of who that child will become. It isn't impossible because we are born sort of predisposed, but the experiences we have actually shape it. So the quality of those early childhood workers, the actual experiences kids have, and the celebration of life. So reading with a child, which seems like a fun thing to do for a child that doesn't really know how to read, is setting up that emotion, that tone, that respect for the written word that later on perpetuates into a high school completer. We can almost predict right away whether that child's going to make it by the time they're 5, if they have 50 books in their home. So all these things are the building blocks of a great life. And that's why we really have to invest really hard in the early childhood sector.
It kind of shows you how important the sector is, and indeed the first 1,000 days. Professor of Education from the University of Newcastle, John Fischetti, thank you as always for coming in.
Thanks, Mark.
2NURFM, a broadcast service of the University of Newcastle.